I want people to just be innovative and not copy what they've seen that has been successful. Like build for you, build for your community. Don't build because you think that someone else has done it well before and you think that you could, do the same thing. I want to see different. I want to see like people's like we're in a creator space right now. I want to see people's creative.
Matt, what's happening?
All good, Sam. Just another day in the metaverse. How about yourself?
That's right. That's right. Excited to dive in. Have a very special guest today. Who do we have lined up?
We have got Josie Bellini, pioneer in the crypto art world. You may know her from her viral pieces of art like Genesis and Filter and Yours Truly that really captured the spirit of crypto back in 2017. She was a big player in the Bitcoin community there and has become just a leading force in the NFT space. This past year, she launched her flagship project, CyberBrokers, which is a collectible ecosystem for metaverse experiences, 10K project that has done very well. And I'm very excited to hear what she has to say with given her perspective from being in the space, but still innovating at the forefront of it. How about you, Sam?
Yeah, 1000%. No, it was fantastic getting to speak with her. I think her breaking down her vision for cyber brokers. Obviously, the price has climbed a bit around a 2 ETH floor at the time of recording this, but how she wants to balance accessibility with the broader market as the project continues to grow. And I think that's a common challenge different projects face. It's like, yeah, you want to have and hold a high price point, but the true goal is to engage community and grow community. So becomes a balancing act. So she speaks about how she's considering approaching that. Also dives into some other big challenges and opportunities that are currently facing the space. And really like too how she kind of navigates these different creative mediums, going from canvas and paint to all the digital and crypto art that she's creating as well. So really enjoyed this conversation. Before we dive in, if you haven't already, do want to encourage you to sign up for our newsletter, nftnow.com. Once a week, we distill everything that's happening in the market into actionable digests of different insights so you can get involved. But without any further ado, Josie Bellini.
Josie, so happy to have you on the NFT Now podcast. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on and chat with you guys.
I'm excited to chat because I've been following your work for a long time. For those who don't know, you are a crypto art pioneer who's made a tremendous impact on the space, from your viral Bitcoin art to your current projects like CyberBrokers. Give us just the brief backstory of your entry into the crypto and NFT space.
Sure. So in college was the first place I really got introduced to Bitcoin. And I wrote an extra credit paper on it in 2015. And then I was studying finance and began to work in private wealth management after graduating. That job and career choice opened up an entirely different world for me. I never before really understood investing and just like how folks that are managing their wealth, how they're doing all of this, and how they're able to make their money work for them while they're sleeping. So this sort of concept really blew my mind, and I realized that I had to be able to get to that level personally to be able to build a future for myself. And so basically, when I was working in private wealth, I didn't love it. I actually hated it. I realized really quickly that there were so many barriers for folks to get into our traditional financial system. And what I mean by that is I was a registered representative to buy and sell securities for folks. But even still, I myself was not able to participate in some of the same investments because I wasn't an accredited investor at that time. So that sort of blew my mind there that I could have all the knowledge, I could have everything waiting to get into these opportunities, but I still wasn't able to participate myself with the rules at that time. So once I started rediscovering Bitcoin and Ethereum, I decided that that was my moment. That's where I could really learn about them and start to invest in them myself. So I started investing in ETH and Bitcoin in like April 2017, I believe, and quickly was trying to absorb and learn everything I could about it. And I started going to every single Bitcoin meetup I could in Chicago. I started hosting a meetup. I started not only going to conferences, but helping put on conferences, and wanted to get into the space as much as I could. I ended up quitting my job. I went back to waitressing at night at a restaurant, and I took a coding boot camp at Northwestern to hopefully be a full stack dev for like blockchain and cryptocurrency or crypto companies at the time. I also ended up hating coding, but I loved art. I've always been an artist, and I really love the design side of it. So I started working and doing design for conferences and companies within the space, and that quickly it absorbed my whole life. I was learning, I was working, I was all my free time, my hobby was like all crypto and learning this ethos behind Bitcoin and like what it really meant to be financially free. So, anyways, all of that turned into wanting to create a piece of artwork for myself for our home that represented my journey so far. So at the end of 2017, I made a piece called Genesis, which was all of my earlier works were all physical paintings and cutting up money and paper and inks and putting them all together, spray paint, all of this stuff together into a piece. And I made Genesis and posted it on Reddit, and it like went viral on r/cryptocurrency. And people were like, how can I get a print of this? And, this is amazing, blah, blah, blah. And like crypto art, like it wasn't a thing at that point, right? Like there was cryptograffiti, a huge fan at the time and now really great friend, coin artist who had for years been doing created puzzles with Bitcoin hidden in it. So those quickly became like I was fangirling over them, and then quickly became mentors, and then now are really great friends. But anyways, I figured out that people in the space really wanted to have something tangible and own something beyond investing in crypto. They wanted something that represented their journey. So that's how I started creating crypto art. Eventually, that turned into full time and NFTs and things like that. But that was the genesis point.
I love that. I love that perspective. Also, shout out Northwestern. I'm an alum as well, and we've had a couple. I think Sarah Zucker is also a Northwestern alum, so they've got a nice little group there. I think also one thing that stood out is that you've been able to really kind of like capture the imagination of the crypto community at large. With that, like you mentioned Genesis and some of these like viral Bitcoin art pieces, but also the NFT space, and really like build that foundation. I'm curious too, just to hear like your perspective. Like, why do you feel like so much of that original Bitcoin community is suspicious of NFTs? Is it just maximalism, or is there something more there?
Yeah, it's interesting because I do agree with you. I think there are definitely some folks that overlap. The camp I stand in is, and I actually made an art piece on it called Forward Together. And it's two women. One is totally like Bitcoin decked out, and the other one is Ethereum decked out. And really, and they complement each other, and they look really beautiful next to each other. But the meaning is forward together, and that's where I stand. The thing with Bitcoin that is not the I guess the genesis of the originating like reason why people have been in Bitcoin and been there for so long is not it was never to make a quick buck, right? Like it was really because they believed in the ethos behind it. It was a way, it was a lifestyle, or it is a lifestyle. Like it is, its whole meaning is much bigger than um, art and gaming and metaverse and all of these different things. It's a it's like it's above that. Like it's a mindset, it's a way you live your life. And I think for a lot of people, NFTs in some ways, I mean, a lot of them, they are money grabs. And that's not the point of why people are creating specifically for Bitcoin art. They're not creating for that. They're creating for a revolution. They're creating for a movement well beyond a collectible asset. So I think that is a little bit, I do think that there's a place where those can cross for sure in my mind. But I do totally respect, there are some of my friends that won't touch Ethereum NFTs at all. And I respect that. They have been like so like through and through on their grind for their purpose, which is spreading, you know, Bitcoin. Like I totally respect that they don't want to touch Ethereum NFTs. But I will say that NFTs on Ethereum, like I think we've gotten a really like far beautiful story so far. I want to see people get more innovative and not do the same thing, which I feel like for in these cycles we're sort of stuck there right now, or maybe we're breaking out of one, but we're sort of in a little bit of a cycle right now. I'd like to see us break.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And I think I'm interested to hear from your perspective too. Obviously, CyberBrokers has been such an incredible product of yours. Can you just kind of break down what exactly the vision is behind this project and how you foresee it evolving in the months and years to come?
Yeah, so CyberBrokers we've been working on for a while, 2 years before launch, which I know sounds crazy, but really like with an artist's mind, like I don't want to launch something until it's perfect. But we initially started uh, concepting and ideating on it 2 years ago. And the reason why we chose 10,000, which is actually 10,001, I can explain that. But 10,000 number was an homage to two CryptoPunks. That was the only like 10K project out at that time. It was before Hashmask, before the whole like PFP craze, before we ever used like the term PFP is when we started creating CyberBrokers. But we set out that when we wanted to build this, we wanted to build it with intent to last forever, which is why we made choices like SVG and why we wrote our contract. It's completely customized by Ben Hydorn, why we have the story behind it. We have so many different layers, but we set out that we knew from the jump that we wanted to have something that lived as long as the Ethereum blockchain lives, which hopefully is forever, that someone can spin at least a node. So yes, that's sort of the genesis of why when we started and why we started, and the art and the inspiration really pulls from cyberpunk, from crypto. From everything I've learned about the metaverse over the years, and it combines all of that into this collection.
I love it. I love it. And you know, you bring up a really good point, which I think is something that a lot of newcomers to the space don't necessarily think about, was the idea that the art should last forever. The fact that Cyberbrokers is fully on chain is was really important to the community. I know, and talking with people like Art Gnome and Jason's always told me the horror stories of like the early NFT platforms that went down, and those that art is lost forever. So I'd love to hear your perspective. Why was it so important that Cyberbrokers be fully on chain, and what do you think like the NFT space at large needs to realize or needs to better understand about that?
So there are two things that what you just mentioned with Jason saying that some of the early art platforms going down. I was one of those people who was losing the art that I was collecting because the companies were no longer running. And there has been this, solution that some folks have adopted with IPFS. I think it's great. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's great that at least folks are doing that. A big thing for me, so we all know Jimmy, who created Avastars, NFT42. We met a few years ago now in the CryptoKitties Discord channel, and we started talking. And I actually ended up painting a custom one-of-one of one of his kitties for him a few years ago, which was kind of fun. But we started talking, and when before Avastars was named or anything like that, we were talking about I would do the art for it. Unfortunately, I had too many things going on at the time, and I didn't want to hold them up. And they went on and found amazing artists to do Avastars. But really, my early conversations with Jimmy, and understanding why on chain was so important to him and why he was dying on that hill, influenced me a lot. And I took big inspirations from him. And I knew, and I told him after a while, I said, I'm going to launch a collectible and I'm going to follow suit and be fully on chain. And he was extremely supportive, and he just backed me up, and it felt like it made so much sense. And over the years, it's funny because the space has gone so fast, and really there aren't, I still think people don't understand fully what on chain means and when something's not on chain and what the risk is there. And I'm not saying that everyone should move on chain because it would bloat the chain and it doesn't exactly make sense. But I think people should know what they're buying into. We spent a ton of time figuring out our contract and optimizing absolutely everything to get things on chain as cheap as possible. Folks were, and just to explain really quickly in simple terms, because I need simple terms and I'm sure other people do too. I'm not tech savvy. On chain, basically, for our project, SVGs is the file format we used. So I created every single art piece, every single item and asset with, you draw vertex points to create shapes, you fill them in with color. Well, what you can do is you can translate those vertex points and colors into code. And then that code we have written into the contract. We have a compressor and a decompressor, but we have written it into code so it can be stored on the contract. So you don't even have to go to IPFS. You don't have to go anywhere. If you can just pull up our contract, you could recreate all of the art yourself, all 10,001, purely from code, not from images or anything like that. It's all written in code, which is really, really exciting. But the reason why for us that was so important, just to go back to that, is to have that longevity, is to last forever. And I think that was, I guess, the originating story. I got lost there, but the originating story of why we did so.
No, I appreciate that, and I think it's super helpful. Um, and I think another interesting point and kind of challenge and topic of conversation often in the space is this balance between like art and utility, and kind of is there merit and is the utility like kind of merited through just the value of the creative output and the art itself, or do we really need to have really creative value propositions that bring forth new utility? How are you kind of thinking about this and balancing these two areas with your projects?
Yeah, so for us, we have a very long-term play and vision. You can tell with the time we took to launch the collection, our contract that we wrote. We have a long-term vision, and it definitely includes, like, we are creating a universe for people to not only take part in, but also to create with us. We've already started doing that, and CyberBrokers really is a gamified IP brand. So the way that we've started that is our lore. We have three pillars that we sort of go by. The first is our content, which is like our lore. We're writing chapters, we're doing comics. Long term will be animated series, which we're super excited about, but of course that's long term. And we are also writing books, which people don't know about yet, but I'm really excited to launch those. We're writing books about every single talent. Like it's going to be really cool, but we're building out this whole entire lore, and we're not doing that by ourselves. And what I mean with that is we have a dedicated writers room in our Discord that is actually not just throwing out ideas and like seeing what's fun. Our full-time writers are actually in there daily taking all the information that is really great, like this nectar from the writer's room, and distilling it and actually writing it into our chapters real time. And not only that, our quests that we do monthly, this last quest, depending on which team won, there were three teams broken down for CyberBrokers that were like mind, body, and soul. And depending on which team won, which the soul ended up winning, actually decided the end of the chapter. So we had three endings that were completely different, written up for the story. And depending on who won that quest, we immediately inserted that ending. So they're actually, by participating, changing the story every single month. And we don't know the exact end of the story because we're literally creating it real time. So lore is a big anchor for us. And I think there is utility in what we're doing. Collectibles is our other arm, which of course is anchored by irresistible art, and then that third is gaming, which is sort of what I talked about, how the gaming is really anchored by you. It's anchored by you participating, you collecting, you going around with all the future things we have planned, you going around in the metaverse into all these different places to do certain things. So our collectibles, the base is 10,001 CyberBrokers. We have mech pieces. All of these things are going to combine and really have utility for folks to actually go and play and create and live in them.
I love all of that and the description of that and just the way you're thinking about this like this ongoing like expanded universe around these and like on multiple formats and different storytelling narratives. um I think it's really interesting because like that you just demonstrated a lot of the really exciting opportunities around building kind of like a community based NFT project around like this sort of vision. And I know that also comes with some challenges as well. It's a bit of a different beast than just being an artist who's dropping individual pieces when you have a whole community kind of invested in your success and also looking for updates, things like that. There's different pressures that come, and I know that some people have handled those better than others. And so I'm curious as to hear, as coming from an artist background, what have those unique challenges and any lessons learned?
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges for me personally, and I think I've taken that a little bit to CyberBrokers, but we're at a really special spot where we've had a successful launch and we are hiring aggressively and fixing some of those weaknesses that I know I have. One of the tough points for me is marketing. I am like and I know this has to change, but I'm going to create it and I'm going to do the best possible fucking thing I can. And I'm going to release it. And if people love it, they love it. And if they don't, they don't. Right. And so for me, it's been this process of transforming that artist brain of like, this is my work. This is how I'm going to release it. I'm not going to convince you to love it. If you connect with it, like you really connect with it. And I have this relationship with my collectors on a totally another level, because with the crypto art that I create, I know they're buying it for a deeper reason than this is pretty to hang on my wall. They're buying it because we believe in something together. So with collectibles and with a bigger NFT collection, that's definitely different, and you have to take a different approach. And really, right now, we've been sort of like my model in my head, like we've been under the radar, and we really haven't done that like I'm going to convince you to like buy in our community and like this is why you should, buy our whatever amount dollar asset. Like I don't love doing that and I don't like shilling at all. But I do understand that there's a sweet spot that we need to get into, which means that we're hiring amazing marketers and we're going to figure out how to get in that sweet spot where it's not a shill and we're actually telling everyone, we're not giving like hyped up announcements or anything like that, but we're really we're doing amazing things and we're not explaining it how I want it to be explained. We're going to explain it to everyone and walk people through exactly how they can participate and how they can be a part of our community, even if they don't own our assets. Because I think cyber brokers and our universe and everything we're building is well beyond the holders that we have. It's well beyond the people that actually own a cyber broker. Our universe and the direction we're going is going to be much, much bigger than that. Cyber brokers are the base and will always get rewarded in a really special way. But we're building for the metaverse, which means we're building well beyond a 10,000 collection, but we're doing it in a thoughtful way. And we need to properly educate and explain to people how that works.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. Excited to see how that evolves. Um, and I'm curious too, because as an artist, I mean, you express yourself creatively across lots of different mediums. I mean, there's kind of like canvas and paint and digital art, AR. Can you talk about how A, just kind of through your creative process, and then B, how you feel like you've been able to express yourself creatively in new ways through these kind of digital canvases, if you will?
Yeah. So like I said, when I first started creating and, early pieces like filter, which is like what I use as the logo, my like logo and icon for a while, like I don't think a lot of people realize that those were made with like spray paint and paint and hours of cutting up, currencies and dollars, resistencia, like all of these pieces were physicals and paintings and everything first. And as I continued to work and really fell in love with the metaverse and the NFT space, I realized I could do a lot more than just a physical standalone piece. So that's when I implemented, I think it was at the end of 2018. That I implemented augmented reality. So I taught myself animation. And when you scanned the piece with an app, your physical piece with an app, you saw an animation play, which is what I have pinned on my Twitter for a while, my personal Twitter. You saw an animation play, and it really, the t-shirts all had AR in them. It's how a lot of people have actually told me that they got introduced to crypto and to NFTs was their friend, like showing them the filter t-shirt with the money and everything, which was really exciting. But to me, I wanted to go beyond just the physical work and get really creative with the digital, which is why I started doing AR and why I started getting into NFTs to actually sell the animated versions of these pieces. And then really Jin, my friend who I met at the first NFT NYC that they hosted, um, introduced me years ago to crypto voxels when it was a brand new world and there was only black and white, there was no color. He introduced me to the metaverse, brought me on field trips through VR chat, brought me on field trips through all these different virtual worlds. And he was the one who sort of opened that door for me to go beyond just physical and to really create in a unique, special way for the digital world. So I think it's an amazing way to express yourself. I don't want to lose the physical, and we're definitely going to be doing some physical things for CyberBrokers and also for Mirrorware. So I want to emphasize that physical is still important to me, but I think right now, or it used to be physical and then digital, and right now we're focusing on making really innovative digital and then turning it to physical.
Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense, and it's so cool to hear just how NFTs and this whole space changes the creative canvas in a way, and allows for things that just weren't popular and excuse me, possible, but also probably not popular in the in the brick and mortar world. Um, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the metaverse. Like, how are you thinking about it? What inspires you most about it? What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions? All that jazz.
Yeah, everything about the metaverse inspires me. It's really cool because I have friends that honestly live in the metaverse, which I know sounds crazy, but like they really do. They have offices in the metaverse. They're looking at screens and playing virtual worlds through their metaverse office. Like it's crazy the layers there. Everything about the metaverse inspires me. Anyone can be a part of it. I think there are it's really unique because you can be anyone you want to be. And I've done, behind the art series, a podcast that I had a while ago. I've done a series, and I chatted with someone who has a disability and was explaining how in the metaverse they can walk. In the metaverse they can connect with people that they wouldn't have been able to connect with in their country, in their realm. So everything about it inspires me. I think that we need to push further. And to me, this idea, I don't have the answers, but the idea of an open metaverse is what we need to push towards, because right now, when people are building and platforms are building in silos, to me, that's not a metaverse. That is like a plane within this world, but it's not a metaverse. And like, I don't know if I can put the proper words to explain what I mean there, but I want to see more of I know like collaboration is such a buzzword, but maybe even not even collaboration, but having a standard so that people can go cross platform and still be their identity, be themselves, and where we're not just in one world and that's it. And there's this sort of like rivalry between the different virtual worlds. I think the metaverse encompasses so much beyond that. And it's an open world where we can go in between. It's almost like a meta game where you can play even without a world. It's fashion, it's companions, it's everything. It's furniture, it's lifestyle. It's much beyond these worlds that right now I feel like the worlds and games are building in a little bit of a silo, and I want to see that change a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are important points. Um, so, many of crypto art's pioneers were women, but there's still a glaring disparity in sales between male and female artists in the NFT space. How can we close that gap, and how can we create more equity in the space?
I think a way it's tough because I think there needs to be more education in general. And that's for everyone, not just for women versus men, minorities, different age groups. I think there needs to be more education in general. Um, I think that also we as a community can be supportive in putting out the right materials and uplifting new folks in the space, no matter who they are, so that we can be known as an inclusive and um, community that's ready to accept people and their different ideas and their different walks of life. So I think we need to be better at that. I think some of that also, for me, some of my frustration with NFTs in the world that we're in now is it is so number focused, and I think we've lost um, some of our importance for what's happening in the real world. And I don't want to say we've lost like our morals because I don't think that's it, but I don't think we even mention them anymore. When I tweet something that is related to what's going on in the real world, um, people react a certain way. There's always the certain folks that always like interact in a way that they do every time, but like people don't really want to hear about that. So I think we need to overall figure out how to tie in our world to actually what's happening in real life and figure out ways that we can be more inclusive and educate and not forget, not just focus on like number go up, which I feel like is what a lot of the focus is on now.
Yeah, 1000%. I love that perspective. And then and you've alluded to this here and then earlier in the conversation as well. But when we're looking forward over the course of the next kind of 2 or 3 years, as we see all these new people come into the space, what do you think are some of the other big, like either issues and challenges or opportunities that we really need to be conscious of as we kind of unleash the potential of this technology and build a better future?
Yeah, I want people to just be innovative and not copy what they've seen that has been successful. Like build for you, build for your community. Don't build because you think that someone else has done it well before and you think that you could, do the same thing. I want to see different. I want to see like people's like we're in a creator space right now. I want to see people's creative. And I mean that for the tech. I mean that for the writers. I mean that for everything, not just the art. I think a lot of us have lost, like, there are a lot of projects that have released something that looks pretty cool and got lucky with timing, or have this really cool community that's behind them, that's supporting them. And the community is doing some of the legwork. But I also think that it's the I don't think there's like a release out into the wild and leave. I want to see more brands and more projects really empowering their community and focusing and investing back into their community instead of just like taking that money and like launching some cool little random thing once in a while. Like, I want to see that get bigger, and I want to bring these Web3 experiences that are really successful and really beautiful and have done a great job in this digital world and have sold well, whatever. Like, I also want to see that brought to Web2, which I know sounds a little backwards, but I think that that's the way that we actually bring more people into the space, is getting them interested in that way, and bringing them to like the originating like point of like why this Web2 thing was created was because of the successful like Web3 brand. So I just want to see more innovation, more tech innovation. There's so many cool things that you can do with NFTs, and I think a lot of things have sort of been a bit of a copy paste.
Yeah, yeah, makes a lot of sense. Um, Some of your iconic works like Genesis deal with bull and bear market themes, and those roller coaster rides are very much ingrained in crypto culture. They drive the meme cycle, they bring people closer together, they drive them apart as well. And I'm curious, as an OG in the space who has been through multiple market cycles, do you have any advice for those who are dealing with the current market downturn? Maybe it's their first time going through something like this.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, once you're already in the downturn, it's easy to say this, but once in general, don't invest what you can't lose. That's the scary part. Is not only that, because of the bear market, we see people getting hacked daily and their NFTs being completely stolen and lost, which is heartbreaking. And scammers are absolute scum, and I hate them. But like, you cannot invest what you can't afford to lose, which I know is easy to say, but the thing about the bear market and with this happening is that it's also happening in the traditional world. So people are seeing these assets that used to be whatever amount dropping. They're also, seeing what's happening with the housing market and with, inflation and prices going up. So it's really hard to have that in both this like real world and then also your escape with NFTs and the digital world. It's hard to see it happening at the same time. um, I, I can't stress enough, don't invest what you can't afford to at least lose or just sit on for a year, right? Because like for me, I'm not a trader. Like I'm not going to pretend that I am. Like I really like buy things and just hold them forever, probably to my detriment, but like I bought them because I have a connection with them. And I think that's the other thing, is that really I personally, when I buy things, like it is because I have a deeper connection with it and I want to use it for something, or I just love it for art. In particular, I love it for what it is, and I'm happy to hold it no matter what the price is. So I think also buying something that is not just a number go up and is actually something you are interested in and you believe in, so that that community or that passion or whatever it is can take you on the ride for this bear market, and so you can hold on and still have positivity and something that takes you through until we get out of it.
Yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. One thing I'd love to hear your thoughts on too. There's like a growing movement in the space, that's really focused on quote unquote historical NFTs, and these NFTs that were significant, were created prior to the boom. In some cases, were never created with a financial incentive in mind. And as someone who has been active in the space throughout when some of these projects launched and the like, I'm just curious to hear what your thoughts are as to how some of these projects will be remembered, and whether like that history plays a role in that ethos that you mentioned of the things that you like to like pick up and hold.
Yeah, do you mean of like, um I want to make sure I understand your question. Do you mean of like his like actual historical NFTs, like the really early ones, or do you mean ones that have launched recently and are looked at as historical?
I mean the early ones, like
Oh,
prior
okay.
to, yeah.
Yeah. I It's interesting because right now, especially with a lot of recent things that have come out, um, I think there's not a right answer to that, because there could be a historical NFT that you're collecting because of its history, because of its importance, and we sort of saw that really boom with like crypto punks, and we're seeing that happen with some of the rare Pepe stuff, but like the a lot of it at the end of the day still comes back to the creators and their reputation, no matter what. And if those things align and you believe in who created that platform, because NFTs are not like a Bitcoin. Like we all love and believe in Satoshi. Like it's way different, because there's the market is different. Just everything is different now. I hold CryptoPunks. I have no plan to sell them. I hold these things, and I love them, and I collected them at a time when they were worth nothing, right? Like, so I love them and I'm going to hold them forever. So I think they're great. I also think it's really, really important to do your research on the people that are behind it, either at that point or still, because no matter what, that's going to influence the future of the asset as well.
Yeah, 1000%. Exciting times. And as we look forward, when it comes to upcoming projects for you, like what else is in the works? I know you alluded to some of the interesting developments and vision, but we need the alpha.
Yeah. So obviously we have our CyberBrokers. We will be doing something in New York, which we're really excited, and we'll release some information about that this week. So we're excited to see everyone in person. With our three pillars, like I said before, the content, collectibles, and gaming, we're building all of that out right now. And when I talked before about the importance of not building in a silo, we're really focusing on that, and we're making sure that the things that we're building are not only within our little universe and don't interact with everyone else. We're working on things to make sure that we plug in and interact with other things in the NFT and metaverse ecosystem. So we're building experiences and gamified things like crafting and for mechs, crafting, collecting things, exploring, and it won't just be within our universe. It will expand and branch out to others. We want to touch every corner of the metaverse in every way we can. So we are currently building out in different worlds and different experiences that we're going to bring to our collectors. We're also working on weekly web comics, which I'm excited about. And we're working on, we found a really incredible writer that we are working on a series of, which I know this sounds crazy, but a series of 51 books, one for each talent. That will all be released over a year. So they're going to be released really frequently. And I'm like beyond excited for those. And I'm already thinking of, we're already looking through like the physical ways to create the series and everything. So we're really, really focused on the lore and the content and the collectibles. And then, of course, we're also working on a longer term project, Mirrorware, which is its own company. But it is digital fashion. And we're taking all of those concepts that we're working with the CyberBrokers community, like the story behind each piece, how to gamify your fashion so that there are different upgrades that you can get depending on what you do in the digital or in real life on your items, how you could wear those items across many different worlds. Like we're working on all of these things. And also what I briefly mentioned before, which ties into Mirrorware, a way that people can enter into our universe and enter into our ecosystem at a much lower price point. I know that not everyone can buy a cyberbroker. They're expensive, and we know that the metaverse is going to be huge and everyone's going to be a part of it. So we are creating ways in the background that you can enter into our community for a very, very low price point and be a part of it, and still, like I said, continue to do those amazing things, like actually create the story with us, collect and everything with us.
Amazing. Well, we look forward to chronicling that journey, following you along on it, and seeing everything that you're building come to fruition. It's been a real pleasure today, Josie. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Man, that was a super fun conversation. What stood out to you, Matt?
Oh, wow. I've been looking forward to this conversation because I've been following her work and it did not disappoint. I loved her perspective on the issues facing NFTs today, how number focused it is as opposed to the higher concepts that really led a lot of the early Bitcoin pioneers into the space, and how we can kind of work to ensure that that ethos remains while not being stuck in the past. I think that she has done a really good job of straddling that gap and understanding that perspective while continuing to push things forward. I loved her perspective on innovation and the importance of pushing everything forward without copying. We're seeing a lot of that in the space, and I love hearing her speak about the metaverse. I think she's very forward looking when it comes there.
Yeah, no, super exciting times. If you haven't already, definitely be sure to check out CyberBrokers and follow Josie. And really appreciate all of you for tuning in. If you haven't already, as mentioned, definitely don't hesitate to sign up for our newsletter, nftnow.com. Distill what's happening in the market into actual digestive insights so you can get involved, nftnow.com. But there you have it. Another week, another podcast. We'll be back next week. Thank you all.